Good evening, all, and welcome to Ask the Knights Live. I am Lord Calabar Guyler, commanding the Meridian Cross, commanding the Argent Comet, commanding the Argent Lamp, commanding the Falcon's Faith, and Reaper, coming to you live from the Barony of the Osprey on the southern coast of Meridiax. Now, clearly, I'm not Baron Logan Pathwarden. This past week, Logan's father passed away, so he's back in Virginia with his family. Because of this, he's once again asked me to step in, and it is, of course, my honor. Now, before we go on, I would like to break from format in just a bit and ask my guests to join me. And I would like them and all of you watching to join me in raising a glass to Baron Logan, to his family, in their time of grief, and especially to the memory of his father, Henry Lavis. May his journey be swift, and may his memory be long-lasting. Hear, hear.
Hear, hear.
Thank you all for that. Now, as they say, the show must go on. It is my distinct pleasure this evening to continue the Meridian invasion of Ask the Knights. Now, I'd like to introduce to you the hosts of the Hound and Stag, Graf Ulrich von Brandenburg, and the Knight of Kittens himself, Sir Erik Martell. Good evening, Your Excellencies.
Evening.
Good evening. Thanks for having us.
Of course, of course. Thank you guys for joining us. I am looking forward to this evening. I know you guys are a hoot on your show and just a hoot in general, so I'm suspecting some interesting answers tonight, and it's going to be fun. So let's jump into the question. So we always like to start off with sort of the SCA origin story to get your introduction. So tell us who you are and how did you get started in the SCA?
I'll let Erik. Oh, I'll go first.
You're up first.
Since I popped up on the screen.
That's right, you're there.
So, like I said, I'm Ulrich von Brandenburg. Say that 3 times fast. I'm a knight, a pelican, and a royal peer. I got started. Let's deal with this first, right off the bat. So, I have recently accepted a position as the emergency replacement deputy for the Society Seneschal, pending my warrant. That's why you see the disclaimer at the bottom of the screen, because I want to make sure that people understand that when I speak, I only speak for me. That said, so how I got started in the SCA was 30 years ago. I went to a Scottish festival in Boulder, Colorado, when I was visiting my grandmother in the hospital. While I was there, I looked to the side, and there were 15 guys, all in mail, running around in this giant dust bowl, beating the crap out of each other, falling on the ground, continuing to pound on each other with sticks. I walked straight over and said, "Hey, how do I do this?" Then there was this big gap where I was in the military at the time, this big gap where I went off to Desert Storm, came back, and back then in 1991, there wasn't the internet. It was hard to find the SCA, and I was stationed in Fort Riley, Kansas. Got out, moved back home. I'd say a long story short, but it's too late for that. Skip forward 10 years. I'm at an Outback Steakhouse. I run into a buddy of mine, now Duke Caspar. He's like, "Hey, 10 years ago, I was in the SCA. I found they're doing a demo this weekend, and I'm going to go." I'm like, "Hey, let's go." I saw this here, and we went to find the demo. The demo did not happen. We found the local group's business meeting and joined up then and bought memberships, started playing, haven't stopped since.
There you go. And Sir?
So my origin story is a little bit like Ulrich's, in that I found the SCA very briefly, actually in the late 80s, but then had a lot of things to do before I could sort of get involved in anything. And for a very long time, I was what some people sort of derisively refer to as casual SCAers, in that I really liked war fighting, I really liked hanging out with my friends, and I really liked partying. And I was less interested in a lot of the formal aspects of the SCA. Now, over time that changed. I got involved in feastocrating and autocrating and things of that nature, and doing a lot of those other things. But I I started out at one extreme and sort of moved over into the other over the passage of many years. I'm a knight and I'm a landed baron currently. I'm the Baron of Iron Mountain. So obviously, most people would not refer to me as a casual SCAer anymore. But like Ulrich, it took me a bit of time to find, not just find the SCA, but to find where I wanted to be, and it turned out pretty well, though, I have to say.
You were talking about your service, Sir Erik. I'm pretty sure that there's a word for that. They give you some award towards making you a pelican sometime soon, I think. No,
I have recently received a writ to join the Order of the Pelican, but as I like to tell people, I am not yet a member of that order.
It's true. But it's definitely on the way. In your service, I'm sure it definitely speaks for itself in Meridies and in the known world abound. And, of course, Graf Ulrich, not too long ago, also joined that order, just, I think, early COVID, if I'm not mistaken.
I did. I got tricked. So my knight invited me over to, we were holding a court, and he said he had some tech problems and invited me over to help him with the tech portion of stuff, which is not uncommon. And then while I was there, they surprised me with an offer of elevation to the Order of the Pelican. And as my former squire brother once said, a meteor could come through that roof and kill us all, and I will have had my banana pudding. So instead of waiting like everyone else is doing, I asked to go ahead and get that knocked out right there.
And I will have had my banana pudding. That is the most Southern phrase I have heard in quite some time, sir.
There's a story, but yeah, it's
yeah. No, and I will. There you go. And I will have had my. You now have your banana pudding. I like that.
Had my banana pudding.
All righty. Okay, so the next question that Logan always likes to ask, and I'm going to keep with tradition for him, is what keeps you coming back? And I've added the caveat. So obviously in COVID right now, we are different and weird times. So what keeps you coming back on a regular day? And what's keeping you engaged during this time of pandemic?
So I think everyone answers this question, first of all, with the people. And I think that's probably the most accurate and most immediate answer. But so I want to get that out there. But I also, as individuals, we're all motivated by different things. And so we all sort of have our joy in different places. Pre-COVID, my answer would have been categorically that I love the challenge of combat, of the training for it, of the week by week by week by week progression of the things that I'm working on and seeing it unfold on the field against worthy opponents, and then seeing them react to the changes that I've made and then see them grow as I grow and we all become better at our craft. Now, in COVID, we don't have that right now. So the thing that's sort of keeping me engaged, beyond the hope that one day I'll get that back, and I'm going to be really clear, that's a really important part of my staying engaged, is the hope that we get that back soon. But I've had a lot of wonderful things happen in the society. And I'm not talking about awards, though I've been honored with many of them. And I'm not even really talking about the great experiences that I've had on the field, though I've had many of those too. I have had a lot of wonderful interactions with people. I've met some of my closest friends. I've been there for their greatest triumphs. I've seen their children born and grow up. I met my wife in the society. So the idea that might not exist for someone who hasn't found it yet, that's what keeps me involved during the pandemic, because I hate the idea that somewhere out there was a guy like me who could have gotten so much out of the SCA, and the thought that it could go away because of this really sort of spurs me on to do the stuff that I do.
Great answer.
There's a reason that Erik and I do shows together, and that we're friends. We have a very similar outlook on things, and this is one of those things. So yes, it is by all means, it is absolutely the people. Much like Erik, I can't imagine my life right now without the SCA in it. It's been such an important part to me. The me before the SCA had probably 6 people he would call friend. Now I can't count that many, how high the number of people that I would call friends. Certainly, I love the fighting. I love the camaraderie. I love the combat. A lot of what brings me back right now is the opportunity to serve and give back to a society that has given me so much in my life. It's given me friends. It's given me opportunities. Those friends have helped me get jobs. It's given me probably my 3 best friends in the world. It's giving back for me right now. That's helping me. And right now in the COVID era, the ability to serve and do something for people is keeping me coming back to the SCA. I met you here. I met Helga through this. I met all the people on the Between Two Peers Discord that I didn't know before. It's been fantastic.
Yeah, it's funny. You and I are in the same kingdom, and we literally, we've crossed paths before. We've never actually gotten to talk until COVID, and it's weird how much connection that has happened when we've been so disconnected. And that's across this kingdom and across the known world. And you're right. I'll answer this one too. I think because I have a similar path. I've started doing these web shows, started doing all this stuff because I wanted to connect. I wanted to see people. I wanted to show people what the SCA was. And I've loved every second of doing this, and I love all my former all my other YouTube creators have just done so much good work. It's amazing what we've all sort of created out of this really crappy place.
Right.
All right. So okay, actually let me do this. So you folks watching out there, this show does not work without you. So the first half of the show is always the host, asking questions that I have prepared or that Logan has left for me. But after that, it goes to you. So ask those questions in the comments or in the live chat if you're on YouTube. Please also include your SCA name and title so that we can properly ridicule you and or credit you as appropriate. Or so that our guests know who to come after the show. I mean, your face is going to pop up too, so you're not going to get away with much. Just be All right, so actually, I'm going to go ahead and address this question from the comments before I get into the next of mine. This is from Earl Robert. Earl Robert Glendinavok, a lovely peer of our kingdom. Do you have to be bald to be a knight?
Yes, it is completely required. The day you get your belt, during your vigil, we hold you down and shave your head. No. But it helps. And bald is beautiful, baby.
Obviously, Earl Robert is jealous of the amazing attractiveness of the bald Meridian Knights. This is an understandable jealousy that he feels, particularly from someone of his stature.
Oh, with the short joke too. I love it.
The short joke from Erik of all people.
That's
right. Like he's the one guy I can make the short joke with, so I had to do it. Right.
That's why. Yeah, so I admit that's why I have covered my head. I do not want to assume myself as one of the knights tonight. So I am a lowly unbelt with my head covered. No, I figured it's just streamlines, right? That's really what it's about.
Exactly.
There you go.
That's wind resistance.
That's right. All right. Speaking of amazing people in the SCA, this is a question that actually came up, pulled out of Logan's thing. Who is your SCA hero and why?
You're up first here, Chief.
Yeah.
So, my SCA hero is Countess Elowin.
Ooh.
There are a lot of great people in the SCA. We're blessed that way. But even among all of those great people, some people are so much better, so much greater. They give so much more. They live to such a higher standard that they sort of stand out. She is a member of the Order of the Pelican. She is the Lady of the Rose. And in my opinion, she is the soul and conscience of our kingdom. And we're better for it. I'm not convinced that Countess Elowen is not an actual angel, but the kind that looks and is kind and wonderful until you face evil, in which she will be 14 feet tall with a flaming sword. I am in awe of her accomplishments, both in the society and in the mundane world, where she is a nurse, and she is currently volunteering in her off time to help give COVID vaccinations to people out in the community. She also volunteers in many other places as well. There are a lot of, as I said, there are a lot of great people in our kingdom and in the rest of the SCA world, but she stands head and shoulders above all of us.
She is one I would have been surprised not to hear. You were correct.
I would argue with Erik, but he's right. So I try not to argue with people when they're right. When I was squired, one of the requirements by my knight was never do anything in the SCA that Countess you would be ashamed to stand in front of Countess Elowen and have to explain to her. As long as you don't do that, as long as you don't do anything that you would be ashamed of in front of her, you'll be okay. But I'm not going to pick Elowen because Erik picked her, and I think that wouldn't be fair. I would love to be able to pick her husband, but he has passed. He was a giant among men. So also, when I was a squire, I tried to say that my knight was the flower of chivalry of Meridies because he was to me, and he told me no, that was Richard Rafin, and I was not allowed to argue. Richard is no longer with us, so I will say that my hero for the SCA, and I have many, but it's Sir Connell McDale, a wise and influential knight. He took a rather more than rough around the edges fighter, turned him into a squire, and through his efforts and several other people's efforts as well, managed to, I think, turn me into a semi decent knight. We'll see. One day I'll know. But I'm going to go with Sir Connell.
Good choice. Good choice. All right. Yeah. I when I asked this, I was prepping this, and I was like, I know who at least one of the two of you will pick, and that's because you cannot ask anybody in this kingdom who the beacon of just awesome is without kind of element coming up. So
right. And I'm in the Rafin lineage, so I have that has to be in my line.
Because if it's not her, it's Richard Rafin. That's the other one. That's the two names you hear in Meridies. They are the and the third being Master Johannes. He would be the other, but usually he comes up if it's a research or lore related conversation. That's the difference there. Very, very good answers, gentlemen. Thank you for that.
All right, quick. It would have been John the Bear Killer, but he wasn't as tall as I thought he was going to be.
And left-handed.
And it's true. Oh, that's inside jokes. There it is. All right. No, that's I was waiting for the Bear Killer jokes to start. I'm just, so all right, so let's get into some nitty-gritty. We've done some touchy-feely ones. Let's talk fighting. Let's talk chivalry and our paths. What do you think was your biggest hurdle as an unbelt?
My mouth. It kept doing this constantly. It just ran and ran and ran. If I thought I was right, and I haven't changed a whole lot on this yet, but if I thought I was right, you were going to hear it. And if I was wrong, you were still going to hear it until someone showed me I was wrong. So I got people who talk to me and explain to me, I can't tell you the number of times that I had the speech of, dude, if you would just shut up, if you would just stop bumping your gums, you'd be there. And I'm like, look, they're going to accept me, or they not? Are they not? There's if they accept me, they're going to accept me for who I am. I got better on a lot of things, but I don't think that I think it took a while for my mouth to stop running too much. And that was easily the biggest hurdle for me, was to temper not only what I said, but how I said it. Right. The big thing, Sir Griffin O'Swerd came to me and he said, look, you do a good job of speaking the truth. Learn how to speak the truth better. Learn how to present it so that everything's doesn't come across as an attack. Everything doesn't come across as someone being assaulted with where they were wrong. And then follow it up with, if you're going to show someone where they're wrong, show someone where they're right, and then tell them how to fix what it was and offer to help them. And he was right, and I was mistaken, and he was correct.
I like that. Learn how to speak the truth better. That's a good quote. I'm gonna hold on to that. Sir Erik?
So this is somewhat of a difficult question for me to answer, because I didn't really have any hurdles, really, so much as I didn't have a path. I wandered around a field, and I stopped, and I smelled some flowers, and I played with the dog, and then I got distracted by a lake, and then I wandered over to see what the ducks were doing. And so I guess the best way to put it is I had things I needed to do in my life to put myself in a position where I could then do the things I wanted to do in the SCA. And until I did those things, I was not going to be able to do them in the SCA. And I needed those learning experiences before I could grow into that and then do the things I wanted to do in the society. And so, and also, I never really thought of myself as being a knight. And no one ever believes me when I say this, but for whatever reason, when I joined the SCA and I heard about knights, in my head, I was just like, that's for other people. I don't understand it. I don't know how. I can't explain it. I'm sure somewhere there's a psychologist who could write a book about it. I don't know. But because of that, there was no path. I became a squire because I liked the knight. I thought I could learn stuff from them, but I didn't think I would be knighted. I just thought I would learn stuff. And so I had a very, very long path. But I'm a better person, and I think I'm a better member of the SCA because of that path. So it all worked out.
Fair enough. So we have a follow-up question, I think, for this. And I'll pull one from the audience a little early, but it's I missed it coming in, so I'll use it now. So on the similar lines, what are some stumbling blocks that you've encountered with your squires? And how has that shaped you and them on their paths?
So I have two squires, one of which is just very recent. And so my first squire was relatively young and relatively inexperienced. And one of his biggest stumbling blocks in the society has been so far is that he wants to do everything all at once. And as we all know, it's good to want to do a great many things, but you can't cram all of them into a very short period of time and understand all of them. That mastery takes time and effort and attention. And so, in a way, it reminds me of me when I was his age. So I have a lot of experience with that. And it sort of helped me to understand that I saw what I didn't get early on sometimes. And I think I can offer that to my squire now as sort of it's great that you have all these interests, and I think you should explore all of them. But understand it's going to take you some time and some patience to get into these things. And all of these things are crafts that require a great deal of practice and a great deal of interest. And you can't do them all at once. So you're going to have to sort of prioritize things and sort of schedule things out. And it seems to have worked really well. And I think he's going to do really great things in a lot of those specific areas. And I'm really looking forward to seeing it.
So my stumbling blocks with my squires have been different with every squire. I stumbled a whole lot with my first squire, Laley. My first, just for the record, my first two squires were female. Not that that makes any difference, but the issue was I formed all of these ideas a squire of the things that should happen and the things that you should do with your squires and the requirements that you should have for squires. And it took me becoming a knight, taking a squire, and learning with that squire that that's all bullshit. It's all about dealing with each individual squire and each individual squire's need, because each individual squire needs something different, and you're going to stumble in a different way with each one. So I've learned as much from each of my squires as I've taught them, if not more. I've had squires that were just hyper focused on fighting and had super amounts of talent and other things, and I have squires who are focused on fighting, but also, like Erik, wants to do all of the other things. And so it's hard to give a specific answer for what's been the stumbling block. I'm going to say learning to deal with all the needs of all of the different squires and learning that you can't treat them all the same. They're all going to have to be treated differently because they're all going to have different needs.
I did want to also add that I think this is really important. Everybody's motivated differently. That's like a super thing that I figured out. Like, I'm motivated by being challenged. So one of my closest friends in the SCA will periodically walk by me during a tournament, lean down and whisper in my ear, "You still suck." Because he knows few things will focus me like how much I hate hearing that. But there are people who that doesn't work with, that are the opposite. And you have to understand how to motivate people. And if you use the wrong motivational tools on the wrong person, you can very negatively impact both their progress and their SCA experience. And you need to be hyper aware of that.
Yep.
That's an interesting concept. There's a Loco taught a class about Memento Mori, and he talked about how the Caesar, one of the emperors, always had a guy that rode on the chariot behind him. He told him, "You too will die. You too will die." It was the keeping you humble thing. So it's sort of a similar thing, right? That's
remember thou art mortal.
Yeah.
Yep.
Thank you for that quick search. Appreciate you for that.
No problem. I was actually looking up something else right quick, but yeah, I was making sure I had the facts right on something.
All right. So we got a question from our current Earl Marshal out there. So let's talk war and fighting events. What is your favorite war? What is your favorite tournament? That is from Master Edward.
Oh, that's really easy. Sorry.
No, you're good. You're up first.
My favorite war by leaps and bounds is Lily's War. Lily's War in Callantyre. I went there for my first time in 2001 or 2002. And I didn't miss any until just here recently when work didn't allow me to go. But it's on a beautiful lake. The fighting is because there are no sides, the fighting is the nicest fighting you'll ever find in the SCA. They're just, the hospitality is amazing. They have a Viking boat that you can go out on and row and sail, and that's great. The Callantyres sing at night, and that's super fun. And the best part is where we camp, it's right, you'd think it'd be like off at the end, but it's on the way to the Viking boat, and it's right by where all the parties are, so it's great. And then my tournament, my favorite tournament by leaps and bounds is Meridian Grand Tournament. It's where we bring all the pageantry. It's where we bring the best of our fighting. Duke Caspar came up with that idea, and Meridies has embraced it and made it work. It is I believe is the best of our fighting on a yearly basis, bar none. It's a more you can win a crown by fighting and winning a crown list, but in Meridies that's going to mean that you went through maximum 30-35 people. If you win a Meridian Grand Tournament, then you went through somewhere between 90 and 120 people. And then you had to at least finish second or win or be chosen in at least one other tournament. So it's my Grail event. So
So my favorite war, and this is probably is an answer you're going to get a lot of, but it's Gulf Wars, and mostly because of the sheer size of it, and with the fort battle, and that was the first war I ever really saw a significant number of siege engines and a great deal of combat archery that had that big war feel. Like it felt like you thought it would feel like in that you read in books or saw in movies. It just had that feel to it. As far as tournaments goes, I'm gonna break those down into types because for melee tourneys, it's Tourney of the Foxes. And I know I just gave Ulrich a headache because Foxes gets a reputation as kind of thuggy and people can get kind of thick there. But I mean, they're also saying you can hit them as hard as you want to, so that's not the worst thing in the world. And two, I like fighting with my buddies, and I like that small melee tournament feel. As far as the a normal tournament, I have to be honest, Ulrich sort of stole my answer there with MGT. But since Ulrich was one of the people who was involved in its inception, I'm just going to let that slide. And instead, I'm going to talk about our 9 Lives charity tourney.
That's a good one.
Because that's my second favorite. And that's a tourney that we have here in Meridies. It's a William Marshall tourney with a buy-in. And fighters can also be sponsored by outside benefactors. And the proceeds go to a no-kill kitten shelter here in the Birmingham, Alabama area. Over the past 3 years, we've raised nearly $8,000 for that shelter. And it is one of the best things in society I've been involved in. So I understand that my answer is probably not the normal answer that you're going to get on that question, but there we are.
I mean, you are in fact the Knight of Kittens, so that is the only appropriate answer, I think.
That's fair.
So for those watching who don't know, so Sir Erik was part of that tournament and sort of it became one of its biggest supporters, I guess. And the funnest thing that was happened recently was it last year at Castle Wars, the last Castle Wars we had.
That's Castle Wars.
Getting to watch him and Fuzzy take the field in cat onesies. That was definitely something. How was that fighting all day in that onesie?
It was surprisingly warm. I had surprisingly little armor on, though I met the minimum standards. But seeing all the people buying into it and all the children's activities that were scheduled around it and how happy the children were, I've gotten a lot of honors in the SCA, but in the box where I hold my knight's chain, I have a little folded piece of paper that a little girl made during children's activities that was a pennon, and it says Knight of Kittens with a little kitten face on it. And I keep that there with my chains so that I remember exactly what I'm supposed to be about.
Ow, that got my toe beans. I don't appreciate that. Nice. That's, yeah. It's weird how those little things matter. Like, we have all this fancy regalia made by the best artisans in the world, but that piece of paper will probably be your most cherished thing because of what it means.
Absolutely correct.
That's cool. All right, let's draw that up. Okay. All right. We have from the Honorable Lady Jessica Osprey, who I'm sure you two of you are very familiar with.
Yeah.
I'm
a tech guru.
The power behind the Hound and Stag, I think. She asked,
Absolutely.
how can fighters support non-fighters and vice versa? Fighter support is one way that non-fighters can reach out to fighters, but what are some other ways that fighters and non-fighters can interface at an event? All right.
So I was actually discussing this with someone a few weeks ago in the concept of very often in the SCA, people who have divergent interests spend very little time together at events. Mm-hmm. And so that people who are heavily involved in one aspect may not know many of the other people who are involved in other aspects, even if they go to the same events. Because if you're on the field and they're doing ANS, you may never see them. I think that we have a really good support for fighters from our non-fighting community. I don't think we lack there. In fact, we should be very grateful for the amount of support that we get. Reversed, that's generally a tough question, because if you're on the field, you may not know what else is happening. So one of the things I think that we can do is take the time, make the time to do what we can to go see ANS exhibits, particularly those that have a competition that requires voting. Mm-hmm. Because that is one way that you can actually show that there was interest, that the crafts were appreciated, and that someone took the time out of their day to go see these people's hard work. Another thing I think, and this, not everyone can do this, but those who have the means can very much help some of our artisans, particularly those of the scribal arts, with the cost associated with making scrolls, because most of that cost is borne by those scribal artists. And so some of them have put out quite large sums of money over the years to provide scrolls for our kingdoms and our baronies and things like that. So if you have the means to do that, I think that would be greatly appreciated.
Yeah, and to piggyback on that, if you're uncomfortable offering money or accepting money, then find out what kind of scribal or artistic materials people need, and offer those up as prizes at ANS fairs. Things like that can be done as well. My big thing is going to be a little more service oriented. And we don't have a problem, especially in Meridia's, with non-fighters supporting fighters. That's right. We have all of these events, and people work their tails off. But if you want to know how the fighters can actually give back, it's not only to go to the non-fighting events and participate, like Erik said, but go and work at the non-fighting events, so that the people who would normally be, working at your events can participate at their event or at the non-fighting event. And that's the big thing. I don't have an artistic bone in my body. I can make you a belt. I can repair armor. That's the extent of my artistic ability. But I have worked ANSs. I have, I don't think I've ever missed a Kingdom ANS, and I've missed one Kingdom ANS in 22 years that we had. So I go to the event. I support it by being there. I work in the kitchen. I work troll. I do something there so that someone else can do something. I don't do I do it every time? No, but I've done it more often than not. Or I wash dishes at the end of the night.
Right. Yeah. I think that's the biggest thing that I've always heard is it pains me to see all these people who are always running events also having to run events at things that they could be going to classes or whatever. So yeah, I definitely second that. So you fighters out there, go work troll. They need help. All right.
Unless you're bad with money, in which case, please do not work troll. Work parking.
Well, I mean, there are spots in troll. There's the waiver dude. There's always the guy doing the waivers. That's easy. I did that job. It's literally sign this. Oh, you signed this? Cool. That's an easy job. And also, it's like you meet people.
Right.
So that's something that I recommend, especially to newer people out there. Go work registration. Go work the troll deck. Like, that's an amazing way to meet, and it's really cool because you also get to see a lot of these people come up in not their fancy regalia. So you realize, oh yeah, these are people. And it's just a dude in oh no, that's the King of Meridia's. Oh God, I didn't realize it because he's not in all his fancy regalia. Right.
As someone just pointed out to me, gate if you're not Meridian.
Oh, gate. Excuse me. Gate registration.
Oh, right. That's a thing.
Sorry, we call it troll here.
Interkingdom anthropology, totally a thing.
We also call the list field, not the Erik, you weird Westerners. All right, I threw that out there.
I'd be okay if you called it the Erik.
I actually call it the Erik. I got in trouble for that early on MGTs. It's funny.
You've been corrupted.
I read a book when I was a kid that called it the Erik.
Right. It's one of the things I love when I'm talking to the folks like Between Two Peers, where we're doing all the after shows, and they've started correcting themselves more because their audience is so wide.
Right.
But it's just and hearing the stories they tell of why, because no two of the stories of why they call it the Erik is the same, and that's hilarious to me. I think because they're just making stories up, frankly. I think somebody's just started just concocting them.
We could call it the Ulrich. I believe there's a petition.
I'll sign that. I'll support that. Let's do it. I'm in favor. All right. So you guys mentioned foxes earlier, and I think it's a good one. And so, Lady Runefried Oppersdottir, the power behind Calbar's Corner. I'll say this: she's the person who keeps me going on this channel, on my channels. She's asked, "Who's on your Fox's dream team, and what is it called?"
Anyone, anywhere?
Fox's dream team.
Oh, all right. If I get to pick it, and there's a part of me that that wants to call out a couple of Western Dukes that I've gotten to know, but I'm a homegrown guy, and I'm going to go with Elenon Caspar, because he's a shieldman and a glaveman all by himself. I'm going to go with Gareth, because he's a shieldman and a glaveman all by himself. So we've got Elenon, Caspar, Gareth. If I'm on are we talking about the 6-man team?
Sure. Yeah. So yourself right. And 5. Yeah.
So me as the weak link, and then I'm going to go with Branos.
Oh,
because Branos.
Yeah, that's a dumb question.
And I'm torn between Seth and Max, but I'm going to go with Max, because just in case the other team needs someone's spine broken, we have Max.
Well, he teleports.
Right.
So, yeah.
And he hits hard. Yeah. So Erik tells me anyway.
So it's funny. I think all of your people are like 7 feet tall, and then there's Max. So it's like he kind of hides.
Right. Right. Well, Branos and Max together the ends, and me at the average height. And for the team, I'll choose the Glenree team name that's never lost, and that's Crapicus.
All right. There you go. What about you, Erik?
All right. So I got a roll, and I got this roll because I got a concussion at Fox's. And after that, I said, I'm never fighting with people that I don't know really well and that I trust will not sell me out so I get another concussion. So my team is Max, because Max has dragon fear. People have to fight the fear of Max before they can fight Max. So I can just send Max out and distract 3/4 of their team. Bart, because he's fast, and I know that despite the fact that he has the attention span of a goldfish, he will stay mostly on task. Duke Angus from Glen Aubin, because he's left-handed, Southern Mississippi swamp gorilla. Sir Johann Brodemore, my man, my buddy, we were squires together, but not just that, he's a shaved circus gorilla who will feed you your own shield. My 5th person is going to be Sir Yastrib Desislavich, because he's also left-handed. He will also beat you to death, but with both his sword and or a glaive. And I'm going to be the tiny guy in the back going, you guys get him. And our team name is going to be Still Can't Believe Bart Tonight, because that's the one Fox's team name we haven't used yet.
Oh,
okay, Bart can't believe it either.
Yeah, it's true.
That's fair.
He was. I enjoyed him. It's funny you mentioned both him and Yazi. They were both really good guests. I enjoyed Bart's episode. He had some. Having played 10 years ago, I knew Bart, but he was little baby Bart. Of course, I also knew Tim. I'm sorry, His Majesty, back when he was still a squire. So it's really interesting. Now me seeing them 10 years later, and they're like these grown up adult people with like belts and things. It's weird. Yeah, I really enjoyed hearing some of Bart's just insights into how he thinks. It was cool. All right, so we've got actually we have a question from another Ulrich. So from Ulrich,
false Ulrich.
As a false Ulrich, I believe it's a West Kingdom Ulrich. Ulrich on Peace Armiger. What is your advice to people just starting out in heavy fighting? So what is your best heavy fighting starter advice?
First of all, do nothing that you don't enjoy. So, like, if you don't enjoy fighting sword and board, then fight something else. You may pay in pain, but you should do stuff that you enjoy. Make it your passion to fall in love with the process of training. If you fall in love with the idea of getting good, you fall in love with a possibility. If you fall in love with the training for it, you will progress. And third, and I must say this, keep your calibration on the low end of whatever kingdom you're in. Don't pay the price for being stubborn or pig-headed or just getting a bad rep. Your career will be longer. You will have more friends, and you will just be generally happier.
Good advice.
I'm going to be pretty close to that. Have fun. If you're just starting fighting, just have fun. Have fun until you're ready to get better, and understand that getting better takes work. And it takes the dedication that Erik was talking about. If you don't want to fight sword and shield, don't fight sword and shield. But it's going to be a longer road for you, not because there's a bias against it, but because in our game, the way we play our game, with a shield that can't be broken, that shield that's impenetrable, it's a tactically superior style for the masses. There are people that are much better picking up a glaive or a spear than they ever would be picking up a sword and shield, and they love it, and that's fine. But do what you love. Don't take a squire's belt. Don't become a squire for a year at least. Take that time to enjoy just playing and just having fun. And then when you're ready to get serious about it, when you're ready to play harder, then do. And if you're never to that point, that's perfectly fine. Don't let anyone tell you, well, you've played for a year now, it's time for you to get serious. Decide who your knight is. Don't have to do any of that. We have a bad problem here in Meridies. Someone's been on the field 4 times, and there's 3 knights circling around him going, I've got this red belt. Just don't. And that's one of my personal rules. I don't take anyone as a squire that hasn't been in for at least a year. Right. And I tell them, also that applies outside of fighting. Don't take an office. Don't take, any kind of position. It's okay to do dishes or something at an event. It's okay to help out. I'm not saying don't help out, but just enjoy the SCA your first year. Trust me, if you stay in the SCA long enough, you'll work. We'll get work out of you. So just have fun. Enjoy it. Learn the fun part about it. Then come over to the working side a bit.
Yeah, I think have fun. Just do the fun things.
It's supposed to be fun.
Right. You are actually paying to do this.
Yep.
Right. That's people forget that it's a game that we're all playing together that you're paying to play. Just enjoy it. Just have fun. Do the things.
How many other games out there that people pay? They pay to get in, and they pay to work the event.
Right. And yeah, we often end up paying more to do more work. It's the weird cycle of weird. I don't get it.
Some of my most fun times in the SCA have been in the feast, in the feast hall, washing dishes after a feast.
Right. See, I'm a person that likes to be involved. I very much have to be doing things, which is, it's why I can't help planning an event, or like I said, when COVID hit, I sat here for a week, went, I'm bored, let's do something.
Right.
I have to be involved in things, right? And I think but it's what makes the SCA really unique is the people drive the thing. We make it what it is.
Right.
And it's the only sort of hobby that is not a group running it and then a group enjoying it. It is just all of us doing it together. So I think it makes the SCA a special place. All right, let's see. We have another question from Jessica Osprey. Although that's similar question, so we'll hold on that one for a second. We'll go to Master Edwards. He threw a good one. This will be one of those. You ready? All right. After receiving the accolade, being knighthood in this case, when did you realize the heavy responsibility, the true weight of the chain, and the expectation of the others?
So almost immediately, to an extent. So I didn't have a vigil before I got knighted. They surprised me with my knighting. And I was knighted and then put on vigil. Where I was put on vigil was directly facing the fighting field. And so they had a sable sword tourney, which is you have to win your way past certain numbers of fighters to get into the rest of the tourney. But I wasn't allowed to participate. I had to sit vigil and watch everyone have fun as my friends worked the vigil for me in the heat of North Georgia fall, and people came in and gave me advice that I still remember to this day. A lot of it, and I still use a lot of it to this day. But one of the lessons I learned there was there's the fun that you want to have right out there in the field in front of you. You're going to watch every bit of it. But your place right now is here to listen and learn. And to take these people who are taking the time out of their day to share with you, take their advice to heart. And so that was the very first lesson. Actually the second lesson. The first lesson I learned was don't be a smart aleck during your knighting ceremony. But the second lesson I learned was to there are times to shut up and listen. Part of our oath, right? To speak and to be silent. There are times to be silent and listen. But even beyond that, one of the first events after that was Fighters Collegium, and we didn't have, I'm a new knight. I shouldn't be teaching a class. I barely know what I'm doing. But we needed teachers. So, you teach, and it's never stopped.
So, I didn't have a vigil. I had a battlefield knighting, which was very cool. So, but I find over the years since that happened that I probably did miss some advice. Would have been pretty helpful to have. For me, it's sort of a two-parter. About a year before I was knighted, I was at an event called Gatalop, where that occurs around Halloween, and they had a costume party there sometimes when it's very close to Halloween. And I was going to the costume as Captain America. Well, there was a young man there who was also dressed up as Captain America. And he comes running up to me and he says, "Oh my God, you're the real Captain America." And I was like, and so finally I just was like, yes. And so we talked for a moment and he said, "Where's your shield?" And I, of course, had actually forgotten the shield that goes with the costume. And I said, "Turns out I forgot it because And he's like, he gave me his little shield and he said, "Here, you can use mine in case you need it." And so I managed to give the shield back to him. But you're all like, and that you remember those things. Well, fast forward to approximately a month, less than a month actually, after my knighting. And I'm at my Barony's event, Magna Fair, and this little boy comes up who looked a great deal like that young man. And he said, "You're a real knight." And I said, "I am." And he said, "I have a sword and I want to be a knight one day." And so we had a discussion and we did some play sword fighting. And I was all pumped up about that. I'm like, that is cool. That is the best thing ever. This is it right here. And I went home and I told my wife about it. And my wife nodded and then she looked at me and she said, Just understand that you're a hero to that kid. And that every time you screw up, you take a chance of ruining that child's dreams. That chain feel heavy yet? I have not forgotten since that day, and it just gets heavier.
Oof. Wow. Yeah. I don't need all my feels tonight. Thank you for that. There's a picture floating out there somewhere of the little girl in the audience behind the knighting. Whose knighting it was, but that you're right. That picture sort of is that epitome of the knighthood. Like that's what I see of the knight. There's always somebody watching, and that's man. You have a lot of stories involving children, Eric. That's cool. That seems to be it's kids and kittens are your thing. Apparently, they really get you. It works.
We're on the basically same emotional level. I mean,
fair. It's just fuzzy things with claws, right? All right, let's see. We got probably time for one more. I think I'm going to pull one out of mine, and if we get any other good ones, we may go over a few minutes. We'll see.
We're here for you, man.
Yeah. I got all night. I got nowhere to be. It's COVID time, right?
Right.
All right. So, the topics of squires has come up a couple times, and you talked a little bit about your squires. What do you look for in a squire? And are you an approach or be approached kind of knight?
So, I'm pretty open in regards to types of people. I don't get very much hung up on a type of person. I really want them to have a passion for fighting, because that's the singular aspect of being a knight that is separate from others. The rattan combat, it's separate from all the other peerages. So I want them to have a passion for that. I want to believe they're a good person. Now, good person means a lot of things to a lot of different people, and they don't have to be good person the way I think other people. This guy's a good person, that guy's a good person, but I got to believe in my heart that they are a good person, and that I'm not going to have to go around apologizing for them all the time.
Right.
Everybody makes mistakes. I'm not saying you get no mistakes in the course of your life. I'm saying I just don't want to make a habit of having to apologize for this person. I got to be able to hang out with them and not want to kill either myself or them. We got to be able to get along. It doesn't have to be, obviously you'll get along with some people better than others. And observationally, I've seen that some knights have squires that are like brothers, and some have squires that are like sons and daughters, and then some that are like a third cousin removed. And then finally, and this is like the most important thing of all, I have to believe that they really want to make the SCA better in some way. And that way's up to them. I'm not there to tell them what it should be. That's a thing they got to figure out on their own. But what is a man that does not make the world a better place? Or a woman?
Eric, you still suck. So as far as me approaching or them approaching, whichever way works. Like I said earlier on, when I took my first squire, I had all these ideas of ways things absolutely had to be, right? Things that had to be accomplished, that a person had to be able to do, that you had to be super serious about fighting, super serious about wanting to be a knight. And I've come to realize that again, it's different for every person. Some people are going to be squires, and they're going to be squires forever, and that's fine. And sometimes they just want a place to belong, a household to belong with.
Right.
But if you're going to be a squire, you have to be willing to walk the path. You don't have to make it all the way. You don't have to stop at the way station of chivalry. You can find a branch and become a pelican. You can find another branch and become a laurel or order defense, or none of these things, and that's all fine. So what I look for is someone that I can get along with. My litmus test is, if in a 5-hour car trip, if I don't want to kill you, then you probably have a pretty good chance. And before I squire you, we're going to take a 5-hour car trip somewhere, because I travel and I expect you to travel. If you can't afford to travel, that's fine. I'll come get you. We'll go somewhere. I'll take you. We'll do something. You can come to me, and then we'll go from there, whatever. But that, and a desire to be better tomorrow than you are today. And that's my big thing, is if you can always work towards that, we'll make everything else work. Duke Max famously says, we can teach any monkey to fight. It's the other things that are difficult. Right. And so if you're willing to work on the other things, I'll help you with the fighting, and I'll help you with the other things too. But that's my big thing. As far as, like I said, as far as who asks who, I used to think that I had to be the one who asked. Now, I don't care. It takes some cojones to ask someone that you may be intimidated by, and I have to respect that as well. And besides, I can't see everybody. I miss people. Right.
There used to be a very Meridian thing. I remember when I played previously, it was you didn't ask to be a squire. That was a thing. It was a big no. I'm glad to see that's really changed. Like, I get there's a cool part of the the aesthetic, I guess, of the knight approaching the squire and doing the whole that's a cool idea. It's not practical, I don't think.
It's like being asked to the prom.
Right.
You're like, but it's the worst thing, and I've been turned down as a knight asking a squire. Right. It's a weird feeling, right? It's that whole you're gonna you in this position of power. Please, there's no power in the SCA, none, zero. I understand that, and I know what I'm saying here. But you're approaching this person, and they're now in a spot. If they're looking for someone, at someone else, they're in this odd concern of, if I turn down this night, will it affect my chance to become a peer later on? And the answer should, by all means, be no, in no way whatsoever, because it may, you may already have your eye on someone else. So I wish there was an easier way of doing it. But it's an awful lot like, bad dating in high school at some point.
Right. And I think one of the issues, too, that I would give this advice. If you want to be a squire, you should probably have had some interaction with a knight before you talk to them about it. If they don't know who you are, that's like being asked, if to use the dating analogy, that's like a stranger walks up to you and asks you out. So get to know them, put yourself in a position. But that's the thing. Knights, our job is to help train people. Our job is to help train everyone. Yep. Because of that, if you want to get to know a knight, there's no better way than hey, Sir Ulrich, can we do some pickups? You do some pickups. After a while, you get some training advice. You get to know them. You learn things about them. That is the best way possible. And also, you'll get to know a lot of guys and ladies, and that you'll be able to pick your knight based on the person that you would like to be squired to, from a knowledge of understanding and of what's out there. To be honest, there are some people who take the first belt that's offered to them, or even the first person who shows any interest at all, and it may not be a good fit. And personality matters in that type of fit. It just does, and I sometimes think we don't talk about that. And honestly, I also think that I'm of the opinion I don't want to take people whose physiology is so different from me that I can't train them. Unless they've already walked pretty far down the path. I say that now. I have a 6'5" squire, but he's pretty far gone, and so he understands what he needs to do. But yeah, go around, talk to a lot of knights. Please talk to a lot of knights.
There's no shot clock.
Right.
It's fine. take your time.
I think the best way to start the conversation is, "Hey, want to fight?"
Yeah.
Yep.
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
All right, gentlemen. I think so. We're just over an hour, so I think we'll handle our final remarks and show plugs and whatnot. So I mentioned it in the introduction, and we've talked about it a couple times. So the two of you are the hosts of the Hound and Stag. Tell us all about that, if you will.
You want to take the video review, and I'll take the other one?
Yeah, okay. So one of the things we do is on Saturdays, we go and we do a review of prior crown list and meridians. Oftentimes, we will have the second place finisher, because it's interesting to get an insight into what that person is thinking, how they prepared for it, what their experiences were in the tourney. And very often in those sorts of things, we see the view of the person who won. But it's also interesting to see how the second place person viewed it, and the different ways of preparing for it. And also, we're kind of irreverent in it too, and we'll let loose with some stuff. And if we see some stuff that looks a little we'll be like, "So did that just happen?" And it's all in good fun. I mean, it doesn't mean we're not telling the truth. Let's be clear. Everything we say in that show is what we believe to be true. Now you can take that for whatever it's worth, because again, free advice is worth what you paid for it. But we generally try to have a really good time, and it's been a blast to see sort of the progression of like people's kits and fighting styles, and even field side presence, and how it's improved over the years. So we've had a lot of fun with that.
There was some. There's some. What was the first one you guys did? Was like what year was that one? Because it was an older video. I remember
the first one we did, I think, was Spring Crown 2002.
Yeah.
I think so.
Which I guess is not that old. God, I feel old now. Ugh.
Right.
That was So we've also done some older ones, and I've just gotten some older videos from Sir Connell. We've done. We had a Spring Crown 91, and we had one from 98. We've got a bunch more now. We've got a couple of Gareth's and a couple of Bryce, and one of Bryce's first one, and one of Brew's, I think. But yeah, the Spring Crown 2002. So one of the weird things about this is, A, I fought in a lot of Meridian Crown lists, and B, it's all from my video library, right? Because back then, lots of people didn't videotape crown lists. And let's be clear, it was videotapes too. So this is all stuff that's been, exactly. But that was brought about to try and keep Meridian fighters engaged, and it's open to everybody. And then in the process of doing that, as we closed in on the end of the February moratorium on events, Erik said, because Erik's our Kingdom heavy fighting deputy, and he said, we're going to have a crown list coming up soon, and I'd like to do a show similar to what we do here and cover what happens at crown lists, so that people have an idea and aren't surprised if they win, because we don't know how this is going to work yet. We don't know how it's all going to work out. So we put a couple of things into place for that, and we started kind of half planning it out. And all of a sudden, the board came out and extended the moratorium on events till the end of May. And then Erik was like, "All right, well, let's do." I asked Erik, "Do you still want to do it?" He goes, "Yeah, let's still do it." And then we started talking about, do we want to continue it? Well, we could go on and do the prince, the crown, what it's like to be prince, what's like to be crown, what's like to be the roses. And then we just started adding things to it and figuring out how to do it. We did the first few on our own. Then Jessica volunteered to help us. Kikuchi helped me pick out mics and cameras, and if he wasn't busy with his own stuff, and you offered to help, and it just offers came from everywhere, and we've got a pretty good little thing going, I think.
And what's the name of the other show you do? What's
How Shit Works?
It's a good show. I like it.
It is How Shit Works. It comes on every Monday night at 6 p.m. Central. All shows 6 p.m.
And we'll get links. I'll make sure we get links shared out to the Ask the Knights page as well for those after the show. All right, and of course, coming up on Ask the Knights. So next week, Baron Logan will be rejoining, and I'll get to be backstage again with my hoodie on instead of all fancy dressed. But we'll be joined by Duke Sean and Duke Sven, who apparently they're going to argue over who's the prettiest. Sean has already declared that Sven has won, but Sven wanted to argue that point. So there were some discussions beforehand about that. So tune in next week for them. Make sure to bring your questions out for that. And if you're feeling froggy this Sunday, pop over to Calbar's Corner for Coffee with Cal, where I'll be joined by Dame Cunahild de la Brea, or Dame Cunahild. We're going to talk about religion in the SCA and sort of where to draw that line and where it's appropriate and how we can integrate that, but in a respectful manner. So tune in for that. That'll be 11 a.m. Central Standard Time on Sunday. All right, gentlemen, I ask you give me one final remark about knighthood. One final tidbit, and then we'll call it a day.
Whew.
Your closing remark, as it were.
It's about knighthood. It's the same advice that I'll give you about a new fighter. It's supposed to be fun. Part of your job, it is a job. It's still supposed to be fun. It's a job. And the biggest part of your job is to make it fun for other people. So it's not, I made a joke about power earlier and I shouldn't have done that. There's no power in the SA. There's no power in knighthood. There's no power in any of this. We're all playing a hobby. We're all having fun. We're all supposed to be making it better for everybody else. And if we just do that, the SCA is going to be amazing. You'll come back stronger than ever after this. And that's the thing. Have fun.
So, Ulrich's right. Like, have fun. That's an important thing. Now I'm going to be the heavy. When you wear this chain, a lot of people have a lot of expectations of you. Expectations that you didn't ask for, but that come with it. And when you take it, if you're not a knight and you aspire to ever be one, you need to understand all of the expectations that come with this. You are on 24/7. You don't get to have a bad day. If you shit the bed, it won't be that a-hole shit the bed. It will be that knight was a terrible person to this person, and every one of your brothers gets that little bit of that weight added to their chain because you didn't carry yours. That's what it is. It's an honor and a privilege, and it's a burden. And you don't get to forget the burden part when you're daydreaming about the honor and the privilege.
There we go. True words never been spoken. Gentlemen, thank you both for this. This has been an amazing evening. It was truly an honor of mine. So thank you both for coming on.
Thanks for having us.
My pleasure. Thanks for having us.
Yeah.
And of course, thank you to our audience for tuning in. Thank you for all the questions. I think we got to all of them, so which is unusual. Usually we don't get to all of them. So we were cooking through them tonight. But thank you guys all for joining us. Remember to tune in next week. Smash that comment or smash the like button. Subscribe down below. Yeah, I'm sorry. Hold on. Flat snap that like button. There you go. We use Logan's catchphrase. And tune in next week. This has been Erik, Ulrich, and Cal on Ask the Knights. Night, everybody.
Night.
Night, everybody.